if you've built a $50 million company, you're already successful. You already have the confidence to know that you can do that. Now you're ambitious and you want to get to 100 million. Well, you're going to get to 100 million because you're confident, right? And then it's about, like we talked about, make sure you just surround yourself with the right team and the right people.
Welcome back to the Bombshell Business Podcast. I'm your host, Amber Hurdle. I'm particularly excited about today's episode. And in season 7, we have kicked things off by, talking to all my smart friends. Not all of them, but many of them. And today is no exception. I am super excited to introduce you to Tom Park. And I asked him before in just our pre-interview chat if it was okay for me to read his full bio, because as you know, we always synthesize things down. We do like the 50-word bio, and we make sure that from a listener perspective, we're not like droning on, but y'all, you need to hear what he's done so that when we dip into these conversations, that you understand the wealth of experience that comes with that. So let me tell you about my friend, Tom. So Tom joined Portage Point, his current experience, in December 2020, and currently serves as a managing director, offering interim management, performance improvement, and board services to stakeholders in periods of distress, underperformance, and transition. He also currently serves as the board of directors for Howard's, a large independent appliance and consumer electronics retailer. Now, how did we get to this stage in our career? Buckle up, friends. So prior to joining, he was CEO of Incipio, and I hope I said that correctly, a consumer products company. And prior to that, he was the president of Kenmore, Craftsman, Die Hard for Sears Holdings. Tom was hired in 2015 to transform these iconic American brands to maximize their value by externalizing the brands after nearly 100 years of being exclusively sold at Sears. Under Tom's leadership, the Kenmore and Die Hard brands were launched exclusively on Amazon. Kenmore is the first major appliance brand to be sold on Amazon and included delivery and installation services performed by Sears. He was instrumental in negotiating the sale of the Craftsman brand in 2017 to Stanley Black & Decker for $900 million. All right, we're not even done yet, y'all. We are literally just scratching the surface, and we're just into the bio, so just wait for the interview. Prior to joining Sears, Tom had held several executive positions at Belkin International. Anyone have a cord handy that you can see, like an iPhone accessory? That's what we're talking about. A global leader in mobile accessories, wireless networking products, and IoT smart products. Positions within Belkin included president, Linksys Networking Division, president of the Americas, chief operating officer, and CFO. During his tenure of a dozen years, Belkin saw significant growth, more than doubling the business to $1 billion with a B dollars. Prior to Belkin, Tom spent a decade with the Walt Disney Company, just these little companies, where he was president of the Disney stores worldwide. In addition, he held executive positions with the Disney Consumer Products. Tom was controller for the $3 billion consumer products business and controller for Walt Disney Imagineering, the design and development group for Disney theme parks, which if you have not watched that on, I think it's Netflix, maybe, you can get the behind the scenes there. Tom graduated from Villanova University with a BS in accounting in 1979 and began his career with Unisys, holding several positions in finance and accounting for over 12 years. Tom serves on several advisory boards, including the Villanova School of Business. Thank you, Tom, for giving back. Tom lives in the LA area with his wife, Lisa, and is a proud father of 4 children, one who recently got married, and 1 granddaughter. Tom, you're just rolling up on here like a boss. Like, what is going on here? Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Amber, and thank you for your kind words. I'm going to use you as my next PR person.
Okay, good.
About my career. It was well delivered. Thank you.
So I wanted to read the whole thing because as we're talking about doing business in today's economic environment, social media environment, like all this stuff, the world is a very wonky place, especially as we have emerged from the pandemic. And I guess I would just like to start with like an overarching, what is Tom's state of the union of where business is right now?
Um, I'll tell you, it's a really, we're going into a new cycle, and you just read my long career, so I've been through a bunch of cycles. Uh,
Scenery.
uh, I think that the last cycle that we went through was 2008, 2009,
Mm.
and it was a pretty bad one, right? It lasted for, well, at least 3 years, maybe even 4 years. And I was at Belkin at the time, and we had just crossed the $1 billion mark. We were very fortunate to be partnered with Apple with the iPhone accessories, and the Apple, iPhone every year would come out and just go through the roof. Well, once that downturn, that recession hit in '09, people stopped buying iPhones every year,
Hmm.
right? And that's what our whole business model was about. And we had built up the company's infrastructure to get to that $1 billion level, and it was declining. And so we had to button down the hatches. We had to manage our expenses. Obviously, we had to, you know, watch our inventory levels, and we didn't know how long it was going to last. So we were pretty forceful in having to drive through that. But we also knew that our competitors were going through that at the same time. And so we also took it as an opportunity of, well, maybe we can push some people off the shelf, right? Because we'll deliver. The key about any consumer products business that's selling into retail, whether it's a Walmart, it's a Target, a customer like Apple, your customer service, your ability to deliver products, to keep the shelves full, you have it priced right, and then do the appropriate marketing and branding so that it sells through. And so we never lost focus of that. And we were able to successfully get through that. And by the time 2013 arrived, we were back to where we were before the recession, and better than ever. And that little strategy of how do I make sure I can, out compete my competitors, outbeat my competitors through this down cycle time, worked. So as we look at today's cycle that we're in, it's been quite, no one has ever been through a pandemic before, at least not in our lifetime, right?
Right.
We all thought when the pandemic was hit that business was going to slow down. It slowed down, but not to the degree that people had thought. Then we got hit with the supply chain crisis. And so you mentioned that I was at Howard's, on the board of director at Howard's. We couldn't get appliances because of the supply chain, right? So we were able to stay open, and we were able to deliver to consumers' homes. Best Buy and Sears shut down during the pandemic, so we were able to outbeat our competitors because they weren't open, but we're having trouble getting supplies. So what we did, like a lot of other consumer products, and I'm in the market, as you mentioned, with Portage Point, advising clients, inventory is their biggest problem now because,
Hmm.
well, let's say I needed 1,000 units of a refrigerator. Well, we bought 2,000 because we figured if we get 1,000, we're okay, right?
Right.
Well, we got loaded up with inventory. So now we just had a very aggressive Labor Day, and that type of thing to reduce the cost so we could push the inventory through. If you noticed, the Labor Day sales this weekend were everywhere,
Oh, it was insane.
and particularly,
Significant savings.
yeah, and the retailers they didn't really want to do that, right? A lot of that inventory they bought for the holiday season. So if you're in the apparel business, for example, and your winter wear products were sitting on a boat in Long Beach, outside of Long Beach.
Which I've personally witnessed. That was something.
Yeah,
It's something.
flying to Los Angeles to see all those ships out there. Well, they're all the sweaters and the coats and the boots. They finally arrived at the warehouses of the retailers in March, when you don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
So now what do you do? Do you significantly mark it down? Do you put it into your warehouse and let it sit there for next year? Which in the fashion business is a no-no, because the
Last
trend.
season.
That's right.
Yeah.
So if you go to discount retailers right now, you'll see all that winter wear, and even spring wear, is being discounted. Well, when you went through the pandemic, especially middle market companies, lower middle market to middle market companies that don't have a wealth of capital. So they got some help from the government. which certainly helped on the consumer side, but they had to borrow, right? They had to borrow to buy that inventory. And now interest rates are going up. Their costs are going up. So I think that we're going to see some real challenges in the middle market area, lower middle market area, in the consumer products, in the retail sector come this holiday. Holidays when you're supposed to make all your money, especially at retail. You've had a tough second quarter, a tough third quarter, and you can just read even Walmart and Target had poor earnings. I don't know if you've seen what's going on with Bath and Beyond.
Oh, yeah.
But that's just been recently announced. So
and there's some tragedy around that as well.
I know. This weekend we heard the terrible news about their CFO.
Yeah.
So I think the waters are going to get a lot rougher. I think that inflation the Fed continues to increase interest rates. That's such a tightrope to walk, right? Because if you raise the interest rates too high, then the consumer can't buy. Credit card rates alone, right? Not to mention what it's done to people's 401ks. The stock market doesn't react well to that. Now the market, has had a really difficult last 3-4 months, and nobody knows what's going to happen. I wouldn't want to give a prognostication, but from the tone of my conversation, you could probably guess where I think it's going, right? So I think people are just going to cut back, and how long will this last? Well, let's hope not much longer than first quarter 23. The difference between what happened in 2008 and what's happening today is the amount of money that's in the system, the amount of wealth that's been created, right? The amount of new companies that have hit the market and been extremely successful, in the tech world, software companies, right?
Right.
Again, I just met a fellow alumni from Villanova. He's, 30 years old. He and his roommate from Villanova developed a software company, and they just sold it. Right?
Yeah. But the multiplier on like that is so much more significant than like a retail product. It's easier to, have margin.
So there's been a tremendous amount of wealth created, since 2009. That's really a bottom line that's going to get us through this.
Good.
And smart investors, private equity firms, they're going to snatch up a bunch of companies that have been underperforming because of this challenge. They're going to put capital into those, and they're going to grow.
I love that. And I'm seeing that a lot in some of the industries that I work in, is just this massive influx of private money going into provide them with the things that they need to actually grow and scale. Whereas before, bootstrapping works until it doesn't. So it's just like, where do you land in that? Yeah.
And private equity had their most active year ever in 2021. Tons. In our company, Portage Point, we advise private equity firms. We advise them either in performance improvement to help their companies get better. And we play mostly in the middle market, lower middle market. So, despite all those big names on my resume, I'm really enjoying working in this environment because we're helping companies grow.
Right.
And a lot of times, like a family-owned company that's been around for 30, 40 years, and the founder has bootstrapped it. He's had great success. But he hasn't had access to capital that could double and triple the size of the company. And
access to capital or access to a brain like yours has taken a company to the $1 billion mark. He just doesn't have that experience. And so how can he get himself there if he hasn't walked in that path?
Yeah. Yeah. That's where I'm enjoying being an advisor.
Yeah.
Here's what I think you might need to do. If you want to get there, you got to build your infrastructure up ahead of the curve. Right?
Yeah.
And that's what, at Belkin, actually, I joined Belkin in 2004, and we were about a $300 million company. And as you mentioned, we got to $1 billion, and we did it in 4 years. But we couldn't get there if we didn't have the right infrastructure, didn't have the right people, right, the right talent, right, the right infrastructure, like a distribution center, the right sourcing. We source a lot of our product from the Far East, but we didn't have an office there, so put an office there, right? And by the time that those sales were ringing the bell, we were ready to deliver.
Yeah.
And that was an important strategy that we had. And it's important for all companies to be thinking about, if I'm going to grow, like if you go from a $50 million company to a $100 million company, it's a whole new deal.
Right.
If you go from 100 to 200, it's another new deal.
Yeah.
The level of talent that you have in the organization, the level of process, procedures, systems, all that kind of nuts and bolts infrastructure, you build it and invest in it with that number in mind.
Yeah.
I want to get to $1 billion. This is what I have to do. And who do I need to hire to get there?
So let's just say, like, okay, so some of my listeners, a lot of my listeners are probably at like somewhere above the $50 million mark in annual revenue. What needs to shift inside of them to like really scale, like to get to one of those bigger points that you just mentioned?
Yeah. So typically, in those circumstances, the founder, CEO did everything, right? Made every decision, was a product developer as well as the chief salesman, right? The first thing that executive or that owner needs to do is think about, well, maybe I need a COO, or I need an experienced leader.
Integrator.
That's right. An integrator, to come in and ask all the right questions, help develop first you need a strategic plan, right? And it's not just about product and about, sales growth or market share. It's also about your operations and your people.
Right.
Do I have the people to get there? Do I have the horsepower to get there? Do I have the capital to get there? Right. And that's often where an investor can come in and help. Like, you don't have the capital, but you have to go out and hire, 20 more people. Right. You got to.
So if I get more capital, say I get investment, is my first move like to apply that towards like my go-to-market strategy, or is my first move to hire the right people so that I'm equipped to, like, is one come before the other?
I think it's the people, right? Because, 2 or 3 brains are better than one, right? So, hire people that, are like-minded as you are, but have some different experiences and different ideas. And, the CEO or the owner of that $50 million company also should do a self-assessment on his or her strengths.
Yeah.
Right? I know, and I'm really good at this part. I don't really care about this part. Well, you need to care about this part. So maybe that's the area where you need to hire someone. And then, strategic planning and thinking through, what the next 3 to 4 years are going to look like, having experts that work for you that understand the market well enough to know what your go-to-market strategy is going to be, right?
Yeah.
To say,
so you don't have to know all the things.
No, you just have to lay it out, set the goals, understand the market, understand your competition. Market share analysis is one of my favorite tools. I would live and die by the market share reports. It's like being a, manager of a baseball team, right? The great thing about baseball is every day they print the standings. You're 2 games out of first, or you're 3 games first, or man, these guys are killing it. How come they're killing it so well? Understanding, it's talent, but it's also strategy, right? So I would spend every month when that report would come out, looking at my competitors. Did they gained a point? How did they gain a point? Where'd they get it from? They just got placement at a Best Buy, or they have this new product. What's that new product? Well, why don't we have that product? Or how are we going to make our product better than their product, right? And that constant evaluation of your competitors, of the markets, is going to tell you where you should be going, and where there's an opening where you can win, right? Wait a minute, there's a gap in this market. Let's go for it, right? Boom.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of smaller, lower middle market companies don't, you can get access to it through NPD, but they don't want to spend the money, or nobody's told them to do that. Bigger companies, they live and die by it, but
right.
It's just as important for a smaller company.
Well, and that's what I love about you, Tom. And like, 3-ish years ago when I met you, by the way, I say this all the time, but do not listen to your mom, talk to strangers, because I talked to Tom, random meeting. And as I was leaving Los Angeles, and the thing that I think really made me tell you in that moment, like, oh, you don't know this yet, but you're going to be my friend, was that like we were having these conversations around like Disney and like these big companies and these big picture, but then you're able to like synthesize it down into what's actionable for that middle market organization, or something that, you know, even the smaller businesses that are in my own world could digest. And I feel like when you give me advice too, that it's in that same vein of like, I learned it way up here in the stratosphere that you're probably never going to visit, but here's how to make it applicable today.
Yeah.
So if we can, like, I think we were talking about Disney and your leadership there, because that was kind of a big job, to put it as the greatest understatement ever. And we were talking about the people part. So many people think, oh, we have to hire, we have to hire, we have to hire. And then they forget that like you have a leaky bucket that you're putting these new hires in. So, I mean, we could talk about talent acquisition. Obviously, there's 0.5 applicants for every open role right now in our country. But what about retention? What have you learned about keeping employees and keeping those people that have those strategic elements that you might not have happy and moving you towards where you want to go?
Yeah. So I've been really fortunate to have very talented people that have worked for me. And so it starts with hiring, right? Number one.
Right.
You know, you don't want to just hire like, oh, I need a new accounting executive at Walmart, and I need somebody that knows Walmart and somebody that lives in Bentonville, which is pretty much what you know, the job description is. But when you're trying to understand who to hire, it has to be, can they not just run Walmart someday, can they run the whole country? Right? Do they have not only the intellectual capacity to do that, but do they have the personality? Can they lead a team? Right? You know, one of the things that I enjoy more than anything is leading a team and running those teams and help developing those people to be able to really excel and get to their goals, right? So if you're interviewing somebody and they have all the qualifications, but they only ever want to do that one job, right? Or they haven't even thought about it, then they're probably not the right person. But if they have the ambition and the drive and the personality, that, yeah, I would love to go to the next level, you know? And yeah, I want to learn from you, Tom, right? And I want to learn from that. Hiring people smarter than you is the smartest thing I ever did, right? I mean, of course,
it's not a threat. It's a good thing.
It's a really good thing, you know? Yeah. And I want to learn from, I've learned as much from my people as, you know, if they've learned from me. You know, I went from Disney, which was a terrific academy to be from, by the way. I mean, my best friends today are the friends I grew up with at Disney, and the leaders and bosses that I had. I mean, I was able to learn a ton from. And I moved from being a finance executive to end up running the Disney stores worldwide, right? Yeah. So, you know, I never ran a retail store in my life, but I got that job. Why? Because as I progressed through, I had great mentors, I had great teachers, and I had the leadership that they were looking for to lead. I had terrific retailers working for me, you know, store managers and merchants and, you know, distribution people. I let them do their job. I just was constantly cheerleading and constantly learning and constantly developing the strategies and looking at what's working and what's not working, and then tell them what to do, right? And that was a good relationship between the boss and the employees. Constant communication. As far as retention goes, and you know this better than I do, Amber, most of the people leave their job because they don't have a good boss, right? They just don't like their boss, right? Or they don't like the leadership overall or the direction that the company is going. So the constant communication of where we're going, right? You know, you celebrate your wins and learn from your losses, right? I was a cheerleader in college.
That's cool.
Very enthusiastic guy, right? So I never kind of lost that enthusiasm. And when people love enthusiasm, people love celebrating when we did something great. When we lost, you got to call them in and say, well, we lost this deal. Let's talk about why we lost it. What did we do wrong? Who, you know, and a lot of people will go, well, I would have done it, but production didn't get me the product on time, or the costs were too high. No. We're all we're on the same team,
Right.
right? You know, the name on the front of your jersey should be the same name as the back of your jersey. Okay. So if we make mistakes, we make mistakes, but you know, just don't do it again. You know, let's figure out how. Let's figure out who beat us, how they beat us. They beat us because they got their product there better, faster than we do. Okay. How do we get our product there faster? They beat us because they're $10 cheaper than we are on shelf. Well, then we got to reduce our costs. How are we going to find cost reductions? Right. And then it becomes a business conversation. Then it becomes people putting their thinking hats on. And
it's
then
that thing out there that we're all just being curious about without internalizing it and like whipping ourselves with wet noodles.
Yeah, exactly. And we become a team and we write a new plan and then we go back out there and we win the next one. And then we have a party, you know?
Like it. There's always got to be a party. So I'm loving what you're saying. And I'm curious as to, you know, you kind of high level touched on the fact that we're all humans having a human experience and we respond to people's personal brands or not. And does this feel good? Do I like my boss? Do I feel appreciated? Whatever. So you have the emotional condition of a human being in your workforce. And then you have it is what it is. This is black and white. This is what the P&L says. This is what the market's demanding. Like that has nothing to do with anybody's like dreams, wishes, hopes, desires, aspirations. It's just what it is. How do you balance those two things to create what it is that you've created over the years?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's really as much of an art as it is a science.
Yeah.
Right. So look, we all have the number one accountability to our shareholders, and that is to achieve our budgets and to drive profit. Right. So the accountability on your numbers and your budgets is paramount. The way you have to be able to drive that is making sure that everybody understands their accountability. Everybody understands that they manage this part of the business and this is what they're supposed to deliver. So I would have a Monday morning meeting every Monday. I had all my account managers write a report on Friday. It was called 15 at 5. No more than 15 minutes to write the report or to read the report, do it 5 o'clock on Friday night.
I love that.
Then I had one of my, operational analysts, consolidate it all up. They give it to me on Sunday night. I'd read it. I know who did good. I know who missed their number, right? So I was prepared, right? I also could read the report and understand who was embellishing things or maybe not quite, letting you know the full scoop, right? And so I really looked for those because that's bad behavior on either side, right? And that's where I would be more enforcement, or giving people a little bit of shove or letting them know that no, that's not true.
Yeah.
And then here's why. And then they would learn not to do it again, but also have a respect that says, we can't bullshit Tom. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. That's okay.
And so they learned. The team learned. The team also became much more effective, right? Because all that stuff's out of the way now. It's like, yeah, we lost this deal because I didn't do this, Okay. All right. Everybody makes mistakes, Now, can we help you not do that again, right? And when I first started those meetings, everybody was doing like this. Not my fault. Not my, and I would get mad, And the other thing is, I never got mad. I always try to keep my cool. But when I did, the organization knew, oh my gosh.
That's righteous anger. That's Jesus turning over the tables kind of anger.
I was so happy. Did you see what happened today? And everybody talks, about it. So, but that process, that's when I told you that we went through the recession and we ended up coming back and delivering big time. That was a high performing, high functioning team, right? And they all get paid bonuses on performance. And if you beat your performance, you get paid. So they're always incentivized to it. So you get them focused on, look, you guys want to get paid this month? Let's go.
Right. Yeah.
And so all that coming together, I hope that answered your question. I know it was a long answer.
No, 100%. It was multifaceted, which I always appreciate. So I like that it's an art and a science, that this is like, you had very structural things. You set up set up the accountability cadence where everyone knew what was expected by when, and they knew what was going to happen if they did BSU. So like structurally, you had a process in place, but then the humanity side of it is you understood people's personalities and who was the kid who got through college because they're really great at writing BS essays and who actually like knew that the answer wasn't C. So I love that. And I think that's a good, healthy balance of, we talk a lot in business about processes and then people processes, and those two have to go together.
One other point, humor is really important.
Yeah.
Humor is really important. So if you could kind of make a joke out of it, get everybody to laugh, but they know it was a serious situation at the same time, that's always worked for me.
Yeah, it diffuses. And even like that's actually a speaking technique, is that when you get into like a very serious topic, like give it a beat and then add some humor to kind of like diffuse the situation and bring that audience back up. That's exactly what you're doing in a meeting like that. Is right. This was a hot topic. Okay, we need to move to the next topic without this coming with us, all that negative energy. But confront the brutal facts, right? That's such a baseline Stockdale paradox. If we're not doing that in business, then we're really missing out, because you can do that and still move things forward. Now, I have a question, because you were over these brands. So you had Kenmore, Craftsman, and Die Hard, and then you had Sears, which is like grandma's brand, right? So who wants to go to Sears? I do, because I just like, I don't need things to be with, I don't need it to be Nordstrom for me to go get what I need. But as the consumer was shifting, Sears wasn't as sexy as a brand. So you had these brands relocated. Can you was that hard to convince everybody like, hey, we're going to Amazon, we're going to Lowe's? What was the process of like completely shifting this whole model?
So you're to your first point. I had to make the brands more relevant to today.
Yeah.
Right. The Kenmore brand was 100 years old. The Craftsman brand was like 90 years old. Beloved brands, beloved. For Kenmore, it was really important to put technology in there. So you've heard of smart technology, smart home technology. Well, the appliance industry really, that's perfect for it. So you can just say, hey, Alexa, turn the washing machine on, or hey, Alexa, let me know when the washing machine's off, or have your iPhone beep and say, your laundry's going to be done in 10 minutes. So be there to put it in the dryer. Right. And nobody, no one in the appliance industry, well, that's not true. Samsung and LG, because they're technology companies, had started to do that. So one of my charters was, let's make these brands more relevant. Let's put some smart technology in it. And I had some experience with that when I was at Belkin. So we had something more to sell. Kenmore is a terrific brand because we actually work with OEMs like an LG or a Samsung to get, the latest technology from an appliance perspective. But now let's put our little smart technology on it, so it gave us an edge, right? When I looked at where do I go, because it was part of my mandate was to transform these brands, because Sears was closing stores, and the only place they were sold was Sears. So if I didn't find a new home for them,
they're dying too.
So the inside of the company, there was no turmoil, right? Inside the company, there was no turmoil on Kenmore for sure. I thought, well, who do I go to? Home Depot, Lowe's, Best Buy. Well, that would be just shifting the dirt around in those stores. Amazon did not have a major appliance brand.
That's crazy.
And I didn't have a distribution partner. So the deal went pretty easily. The trick on that, though, was having us go into an Amazon customer's home, which they had never had a third party do that before. And Amazon, they set the bar very, very high for our performance. They actually had us go city by city, and to make sure before they went nationwide that we were hitting their metrics. They would have operators riding on our trucks to make sure we were, that's one of the reasons why Amazon is who they are, right? The attention to detail, the attention to customer service. It was a fantastic experience, and it went terrific, and it's still thriving today. Craftsman, everyone was really concerned about taking Craftsman out of Sears because it is the number one tool in the industry and the number one and the best brand. And it was a fun brand to manage. I mean, really, really, customers would tell me, they'd write me letters saying, I have this toolbox that my dad gave me that was my granddad's, right? And now I'm going to give it to my son. In fact, we used that letter and did a television commercial for Father's Day. It's
so
great ad. What we did was Ace Hardware was the first place we went. And it was a good place to go because, a lot of stores, but it's not big box.
Yeah.
And how's it going to do? Is it going to hurt Sears at all? It didn't hurt us a bit. It went off the charts. So now do I try to go into Lowe's or Depot or whatever? And that's when Sears said, we need the money. So
they're like, yes, sell your soul to the devil, please. And not that listen, I'm a huge fan of Home Depot and Lowe's. I don't mean it like that, but you do have to make some concessions when you're working with a big box.
Yeah. So we went to Stanley, and who was the number 2 tool maker, right? And they couldn't wait to get their hands on Craftsman. And Sears got the cash and kept Sears going, and the brand's thriving today.
That's awesome.
So that was a great deal, and it was very fun to do that deal. And then with DieHard, we did the same thing with technology. We had a smart battery charger, for example, so you could see how your car battery or your motorcycle battery or your boat battery is doing, and know when it's time to charge it on your iPhone.
Huh.
So that was pretty cool, right?
That's cool.
And that made it more relevant. And then we did the deal with Amazon, but it was funny when we did the deal with Amazon. Every time you typed in Die Hard, a Bruce Willis movie would come up. So we had to figure out how to do it a little bit.
And it is a Christmas movie.
And then Die Hard was eventually sold to Advanced Auto Parts. So the transformation, it really was a transformation job for these brands, and it was really fun. It was challenging, but it was very exciting and rewarding.
So I guess I just have to ask, like, I think about, things in my life, like, being a teen mom or working for Gaylord Hotels, like those are experiences like, well, if I could do that, I can do anything. And so when you were going down this path, like, where do you get the gonads to just be like, I'm going to get this on Amazon, and like, they've never had this before, but watch me make it happen? Like, where do you get the mental fortitude to say like, oh, Mount Everest, I'm climbing you next?
Yeah. I just a lot of drive and experience and never give up attitude, I guess, if you will. It's something we've got to find. Business is like solving a puzzle. There's a missing piece. Like, where is it? I don't know. We got to find it. And having a good team. I had a terrific team at Sears. A couple of my good colleagues from Disney joined me there. So we had, that I've known for 20 years. So
you had people you could trust.
A lot of trusted, advocates around me, and it was a great team effort, and we just figured it out. And then, we when you do something like an Amazon, like I said, they don't just hand you the keys, right?
Right.
You had to earn it. You had to try it. And so that was about, weekly meetings, just like I was telling you about the Monday meetings I had, before. It was like, how did we do yesterday? How did we do last week? I want to see all the customer reviews. What are the challenges? What do you need? Right. And then get them what they need, and then it starts to roll, and then boom, you're going. So, a little bit of trial and error, a little bit of luck, and a lot of good talent around me.
Yeah. I love that. And I love that you say that it's just a puzzle and you have to find the missing piece. I often describe it as like just a big experiment, and it's a game. Like, people are like, why do you work so much? I'm like, because it's fun. I'm like, look at all these problems I get to solve. What's not fun about that? Like, why would I watch Real Housewives when I could be solving these really exciting problems?
That's right.
Nothing against Real Housewives. Everybody has their way to veg. But so before we wrap up, I feel like I've kind of like asked so many different questions, but I think that there's so many different types of listeners, or there's different listeners in different industries or different business models. And so I kind of wanted to touch on everything. But the fact of the matter is Portage Point does a lot of like M&A work. You do a lot of work with the I guess maybe just tap into that, like what's happening in the private equity world, what's happening, like what are the trends that you're seeing there? And like, let's just say I'm a business and I want to tap into that world. Maybe can you take it from the this is what's happening on the PE side, and then this is what's happening on the side of people who want to like be friends with PEs and get some money.
Yeah. So the great thing about Portage Point Partners is, we're a boutique firm, right? So you're always going to get the A team.
Yeah.
Right. You're always going to get the A team versus a larger consulting firm. We also have industry expertise. So, I'm talking to you about the consumer products and the retail space, but we have an excellent automotive sector, which has been very, very active, aerospace and defense. We have, experienced executives that have run airlines before or have worked for, alongside a Boeing or something like that. So you're going to get the operational expertise married with the financial expertise.
So are you going to invite me to y'all's next lunch just so I can like breathe everybody?
Oh yeah. If you're in Chicago sometime, you let me know, because most of the office is in Chicago.
Okay.
And is a high bar to work for Portage Point. Our associates all come out of blue chip schools. They have a couple of years of blue chip investment banking before they get hired by us. And that just brings a level of talent that when you walk into a client's room, office, it's the team.
Right.
They really are a high performing team. We get things done quickly. We're good advisors, and advisors are really important right now. While we do a lot of distress restructuring, we try to get there before it gets to distress restructuring, right? When private equity firms look at their business, they tend to want to say, "Oh, we know what we're doing. We don't need any help," right? And there's no problem with this company because we bought it, right? So
we have all the answers.
We can be a little bit more, hey, it is what it is right here, and we know it's
your baby, but your baby's ugly,
right? we don't say ugly. We'll get fired if we say that, but we'll say, baby's not doing too good, right? Yeah. Not growing as fast as baby should grow, right?
Yeah.
And so we can really provide a guiding hand, be a trusted advisor, help them get where they want to go. And if it doesn't go the way that they want it, we're there to save them. So that's and like we started in the beginning of this conversation. It's rocky roads out there. There's a lot of turbulence happening in the market. There's a lot of turbulence coming towards us. And so the more help that people can get to get good advice, sound advice, the smarter they are to make the investment.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so now I'm in this wonky market. It's an uncertain economy. I don't have access to capital. I have a really good thing going on and I want to do maybe like a first round. What do I need to know as a business owner to prepare myself either for, well, let's just say either for investment or for like, let's just say I want to wash my hands and sell the whole shebang.
Yeah.
What steps do I take?
Okay. So the first question you have to ask yourself is control, right? Do you want to maintain 100% control? Do you want to take a little bit of money off the table, but still maintain 70% control? Or am I just done? Right. I mean, you have to go through those steps when you're thinking about selling or taking on a capital partner. Right. Most people don't want to give up 100% control. Right. It depends where you are in your life. Right. Yeah. But so then you got to find the right partner that's going to work with you, invest with you, empower you, and support you. Right. And there's a lot of private equity firms that do a good job of that. They want to hire a good management team. They want to hire a company that they can grow, and 3 years later they could sell it, for 3 times the value that they paid for it. Right. And so they'll pay particular attention to the management team. If you want to, a lot of the bigger private equity firms want the control, right? So that's really, to me, in my mind, that's the decision. That once you make that decision, then the rest is easy. Well, not easy. The next piece of advice would be just make sure you feel really good about the partner. It's like hiring people, right? I mean, you may have, you're going to work for them, or it's like interviewing for a job. Do you really like the CEO and the management team there, or was something not there? Because the working relationship is oftentimes going to be, contentious or challenging because it's all about the numbers. I mean,
right.
at the end
And
of the
competing
day,
ideas of how to get there.
that's right. And they gave you a bunch of money. You promised them this. You didn't quite get there. Are they going to work with you to get there, or is it going to be a struggle?
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the biggest challenge in this. If you're desperate for money because you're in trouble, right? A lot of times you're going to end up with a lender. And then it's about a lot of the same things, but negotiating your loan agreement and your covenants. Because once you trip a covenant, then you lose.
That's right.
Unless you can negotiate and keep things going. So, it also depends on what state the business is in.
That makes sense. And I just always go back to as well, like, we don't move forward at all until I have a clear understanding of like, what's your mission, what's your vision, what are your values, service standards, all that kind of stuff. But truly, like, I zero in on the values. It's like, oh, is that in a drawer somewhere? And you just pull them out when it's time to have like an annual meeting, or are you making choices based on those values? And if my values align with, the private equity firms, or, whatever that looks like, the person I'm hiring, whatever, now I know that no matter what's happening, we're at least playing by the same family rules. That to me is a critical piece that gets brushed over.
Really good point.
Yeah.
Really good point. Really good point.
Well, Tom, I'm going to ask you the same question that I ask every single guest who's ever been on the show, I believe, or at least pretty far back. Before I tell people how they could get a hold of you, what is a parting piece of advice that you would give to our listeners? In the core of our listenership, we call them bombshells, which we redefine the term to mean bold, brave, unwaveringly confident woman in business. But the reality is we actually have a lot of bombshell boys listening too. So what is that parting piece of advice that you would give?
Well, first of all, the fact that you call yourselves bombshells means you're confident, right?
Yeah.
and
or working on it.
Yeah, confidence is, in my opinion, the most important thing you can have. You want to have confidence in yourself, in your team, in your product, in your brand, and that you're going to win. You're going to stumble. You're going to fall, but you got to make sure you can pick yourself up and say, I'm not worried about it. Like, I've got confidence that we're going to be fine, yeah. Right? And that confidence gets shaken a whole lot. But you can't lose sight of the fact of what you've already built, right? I mean, look, if you've built a $50 million company, you're already successful, yeah. Right? You already have the confidence to know that you can do that. Now you're ambitious and you want to get to 100 million. Well, you're going to get to 100 million because you're confident, right? And then it's about, like we talked about, make sure you just surround yourself with the right team and the right people. Because if you have the right team and the right people, and you're all confident and you're all bombshells, you're going to all do really good.
That's right. And Tom, that is why when I had a bourbon in my hand, I was like, I like this guy. I like this guy a lot because I just think that we see success in a very similar way. So ways that people can get a hold of you would obviously be going to portagepointpartners.com. This will be in the show notes to see the wealth of experience that this firm offers. And then we can find you on LinkedIn, and then we can also find Portage Point Partners on LinkedIn. Is there anywhere else in the interwebs where we can find you?
No, there are two really good places. And okay. By the way, I'm on LinkedIn every day, which is how you and I reconnected. So,
yes.
Yeah, LinkedIn is a terrific platform. Just connecting with people, learning about opportunities. So look me up on LinkedIn. I'm there every day.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I say that all the time, Bombshell. When I'm listing all the different ways you can get in touch with people, like, start with LinkedIn first. We are business women. So like, TikTok's fun and great. I'm not saying you can't grow your business on that, but like, where people actually do business is on LinkedIn. So let's start there, right?
You got it. Yeah.
Tom, thank you so much for appearing on the show, for sharing your wealth of knowledge, and for just being a solid, cool guy.
Well, thank you, Amber. And it's an honor and a privilege to be joining the Bombshells. So thank you.
Well, bombshells, you know what to do. If you're watching this on YouTube, give it a like, subscribe. If you're listening on your favorite listening platform, do the same. Leave a rating, an honest review. Listen, one time I had somebody that said that she didn't like that I use the term bombshell. If that's your belief, get on there and say it. I don't care. The more that we get reviewed, the more we trip all the algorithms and we can help more people who are aspiring to become more bold, brave, and unwaveringly confident in their business and their life. And plus, they get to watch cool episodes like Tom or any of my other friends that I've interviewed this season or prior to. So thank you so much for your listenership. I know how valuable your time is, and I do not take it for granted that you're spending it with me and my guest. And we will see you on the next episode.